mother's worst nightmare? Your grown son who's living in your home, on your couch, eating your food, with no prospects of getting a job that will pay him enough to go out and live independently.
Mom, exploring. It's hard.
What's a mother to do?
I'm Marty Nemko.
And I'm Barbara Nemko.
And this is the Nemkos Do. We're going to talk about how parents and maybe teachers can do to help avoid this. And it's not easy. We're in an era where ever more jobs are offshored, automated, part-time, temped, gigafied. We'll try to provide some answers. That's what I do during the week, and Barbara's gonna give me a hard time, and we'll try to figure it out. But we're gonna do things chronologically. It doesn't start here. It starts when kids are a lot younger.
So, Marty, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Einstein, come here, Einstein. Einstein.
You want to be a dog?
Einstein.
What
Where's
do you
my
think?
doggie? I want my doggie. Einstein. Come here, Einstein. I can't believe my doggie. Even my doggie is not. I don't know what I want to be when I grow up.
Well, what sounds like fun? Policeman? Firefighter?
Nobody likes policemen. They're
A chief-
bad. They're racists. I don't want them. I don't need no cop.
That's a whole other discussion we're going to have about police. But what about a teacher, an airline pilot?
I hate my teacher.
So what are you thinking? Are you
I
thinking
don't
about
know.
it at all?
I have my homework I got to do. Can we talk about this next decade?
So it starts in early childhood, because every child has been asked by every aunt and uncle forever, what do you want to be when you grow up? That's the standard question. They follow that by pinching the child's cheek and saying, oh my goodness, look how much you've grown. So how do you get your child even to start thinking about the fact that someday they are going to grow up and they are hopefully going to get a job?
Let me get rid of this.
Oh, career counselor.
Well, I think it starts by not asking questions so much, but by, there you are. Einstein, I called you before. You didn't come. What kind of a dog are you? I'm trying to buy some time to think. This is a hard question. It's a hard question. Oh, there was food. I smell food on your mouth. No wonder you didn't come. Human food.
Uh-oh, that somebody's lunch may be gone.
Yeah, oh, I'm afraid that could be the case. Anyway, all right, I'll be good. All right, yes, experiences. Taking your kid to see people in the workplace or watching on YouTube videos. There's so many videos now about what it's really like to be or whatever, even as a young child.
So you're 8 years old and your mother has you watching videos on YouTube about careers?
I'm not saying it's your full-time job, but absolutely. And you know, one of the best things you can do is give a kid two choices. So we're gonna watch a 2-minute video on a career. Would you rather watch one about being a stuntman, or would you rather watch one about being an airline pilot?
Stuntman, stuntman.
Cool. Okay, so we do that. I also take advantage of everybody knows people. So as an adult, my family and my friends have different careers. And I may be able to get a better insider look if I take my kid to see, say my kid's a postal delivery person. Hey, maybe I'm gonna have my kid go on rounds with the post office. No, don't, I'm not worried he's gonna go postal and necessarily be a post office, but it starts them thinking about the world of work in a concrete way. I use, if I have somebody who's a lawyer or a doctor or whatever, I try to get them to do a mini job shadow. Nothing long and painful. My kid is 8, probably 15 minutes is gonna do. What do you think?
I think it's always a good idea to start with the people that the child trusts most, and that's mom and dad. And if mom and dad are working, I would start by bringing them to the office on the weekend briefly. I have to go back to the office to pick up something, and so come with me, and then just point out, and this is where I am during the week when I'm working, and some of the things that I do when I'm here are, and here's why I love my job.
What if you don't? What if a lot of people hate their job? Now what?
Then I think that's also a good time to say, I've been doing this job for 10 years and I don't really like it. And I wish that when I was your age, I had started thinking about it and exploring different ideas so I could have come up with a plan to get a job that I would have liked rather than taking this job because I needed something in order to make money.
There's a whole other way in which I think, even at a young age, at age 8, can be screened. We're well aware that as time goes by, we're learning ever more of who we are is genetic, and certainly in the early childhood. So by the time a kid is 8, you have at least some sense that the kid is more of a word person, more social, more hands-on, more physical. And of course things can change, but really, when you really think about it, most people, we have to make some judgments, some inferences as to where to start. So really a person's basics like those, I'm not saying you get micro detail, oh, you're gonna be an architect, but I'm saying, is this kid more of a word person, more of a science person, more of a people person? I know you're an educator, so you like to believe in this infinite malleability thing. But in reality, it's smart to try to build on the kid's natural predilections, predispositions.
I'm not sure that one can do that at age 8
Wrong.
or 9.
Wrong.
I'm thinking about our granddaughters, and I cannot think of anything in their personalities that are going to point in one direction or the other.
Leah's not leaderly. We would not exposing Leah to leadership, all kinds of ways to be a leader. You're going to be right on the money.
But you have to be a leader in something.
But you start there in different contexts.
Start out by being a leader. Yes, she may have some leadership qualities.
You should take her to places who are doing
looking at things. Yeah, so I can take her to a city council meeting and say, someday you may be on the city council. That's lovely. But first she's got to figure out what she wants to study, and is she
She's 8 years old. We're not seeing what study.
Well, you're asking her to pick a career.
No,
so
I'm asking to expose her.
First she's got to figure out what she's going to do in high school
We're
and college.
talking about exposure. So I would take her, for example, courtrooms are very often open. And lawyers are leaderly, judges are leaderly. I would take her to the courtroom. If I had somebody who was, in fact, a manager or leader, I'd have her sit in on a meeting for a few minutes. You know, a director, you know, Leah is in theater. I would have her, and so is Sarah. I would
good, an unemployed actress. Sounds wonderful.
But, you know, somebody who's a director in school, in high school or in college of plays, could end up directing a work group or a nonprofit or whatever. So I do think that at age 8, and I will stand firm on this, that there are early signs that it's why, instead of exposing you to everything, it's wise to build on what you, as a parent by age 8, you know. Barbara Nemko, when you were age 8, could you have defined yourself as more of a people person, more of a bookish person, more of a science person, more of a hands-on person?
I would have defined myself as a totally bookish person, and that did not pan out in my adulthood.
A PhD.
Yeah, but that's I'm not sure. That is not how I ended up.
You told me you had 1 million friends. As soon as school was over, you didn't sit and read a book. You went and rang the doorbell of all the friends in the apartment building. Come on, you were not bookish. Bookish is Emily Dickinson. You were with your friends all the time.
Not true. No, I was always a very bookish child. My greatest joy was going to the library and coming home with a huge stack of books. So I would not have defined myself, and I was very shy, so I was not a people person. I think the idea of pointing out to kids.
Right, and you're still not really quite, you're right. And you're not really a people person, so I guess I'm wrong, right. So what's interesting really is how much BS the whole career counseling profession is, because your job requires a tremendous amount of people interaction, and yet really you're not very social. And then now you're reminding me that you're insisting, and I believe you, that when you were 8, you were not very social either. You were bookish.
And
introverted.
Shy and introverted, which I still am, but if you tell people that today, they usually look at me like I'm making it up. So I think all around us, every day, all day, there are examples of people working. And so pointing that out, even to a small child, is one way of getting them to start thinking in terms of what they're going to do when they grow up, whether it's taking them to the pediatrician or going to the Department of Motor Vehicles, or there are just jobs, going to the supermarket, seeing truck drivers on the road. There are many different kinds of jobs.
I want to stress the YouTube video. It enables you to see those YouTube videos about those careers, especially if you search on day in the life of, you get a real rich picture that you're just going to, and it's going to represent more than one person. It's going to represent a distillation of many people's experiences, which is really valuable. Also, again, as part of the fact that we're in the modern era, you know, there are great computer programs that can initially help you kind of explore other options. And so if you simply Google Career One Stop, you're going to find links to all kinds of explorations of your skills and your interests and videos that are aimed at kids as well as for adults.
Or the California Career Zone. I agree, there are lots of those things, but I don't think 8 years old is when I'm going to start kids doing that.
I've been migrating to a little older.
Well,
yeah.
okay, I think that's one of the things that we do in school. We do have them go through that, and we do have them try to assess what they're interested in, and we do try to point out what kinds of careers there are. Every child has their own account. The parents have access to that account, and they are all looking at what they're going to do in the future. But I think if we're talking about little kids, that's a perfect time because you're out in the world every day to look at all these different jobs.
You're watching the Nemkos Do. We're talking about the Nemkos Do help your child choose a career. We're talking about all the ways in which a parent can do that. As somebody, I've been a career counselor for 29 years, and I'm considered well-known and an expert. And I really believe that the field is in somewhat, as I half-jokingly said, is a little bit of BS, because so many, for one of two reasons, so many people could be equally happy in any of many careers. And so the one that they're more likely to get a good job in this era of ever more offshoring and automation, et cetera, is going to be one where they have an in. So I would really encourage you, and I'm curious, Barbara, what you think, to focus on careers in which your family or friends have an in. If you know somebody who owns a factory, or who's an executive somewhere, or who's a big-time city planner or whatever, utilize those, because your kid is going to be more likely to get internships, a launchpad job, inside information, and maybe as happy as if you go and try to parse out what are your skills and your interests and your values and all that stuff. Sometimes using that in trumps all of those skills, interests, and values things within broad categories. That's why I said, sure, if somebody's a word person, as I think I am, to make me in a fix-it role, to send me to the auto mechanic shop to learn about fixing cars, party's over.
Oh yeah,
right.
So with the Carby.
So within the broad categories of word people, people, hands-on people, scientific and computer investigative people, then the key is to use your family and friends to get an in, because unfortunately there are not going to be enough good jobs to go around in the work span of your children.
That's a sad reality. Certainly by the time a child is in high school, if they have any notion of what they might want to be, and you know people in that field, that's a wonderful thing to do, and to have them go on a job shadow and just to spend an hour, maybe even half an hour, following somebody around, seeing what kinds of things they do, talking to them about it and asking questions is a great thing to do. But I think there are so many surprises that people find a little bit later. I think we've done kids a disservice in having so downplayed all the skilled trades and the hands-on kinds of jobs.
True. Really true.
We've de-emphasized that for many years, and in our kind of looking down on those kinds of jobs as though they were less than.
That's why we pay $80 an hour. That's why we pay $80 an hour for a handyman.
At least, sometimes more, because there is such a shortage. That's why they're hiring welding students before they even finish their degrees. Right now, construction is the hottest thing around because there is such a great need for people to build housing. We were behind even before we had the fire, that they're looking everywhere to try and find people who will have those skills. We need to be defining the skills that are needed. We had a conversation the other day with the vintners. There are jobs in wineries that required advanced technical training that we don't even know about or think about. But some of them are in the engineering realm, not necessarily being a full engineer. Some of them have to do with testing soils, testing water. There are jobs going unfilled, high-paid jobs, because we don't have the students who are ready to be able to do those.
I think that's certainly true. Justin, there's this blasting music. Is that going to be on? Do we need to cut until we get rid of that?
We won't get rid of that for about an hour. It's lunch.
Yeah, it's not picking up. It's fine. I'm listening to it.
Okay. All right. So I'll try to stay not distracted, and I'll begin. One of the things, I agree with you, but I think also ever more of those jobs are they're really being filled, frankly, by a lot of immigrants. And I know, when I started as a career counselor, the average salary of a carpenter was $25 an hour. Now it's 12, because there are many people who were coming from low-wage countries and used to earning $5 an hour and are grateful for 12. And so I'm not, and I think we are a welcoming nation, and we will have comprehensive immigration reform. So over the work span of your children, I'm not convinced that most of those hands-on careers are going to pay decently enough unless you specialize in something that is more under the radar. Robotics repair. More robots are going to be created. Those welders, those welding jobs are going to be replaced by robotic welders. So somebody who knows how to design, build, install, service, and repair those robots are going to have a much better chance. Still blue collar, I agree with you. But the key is to go under the radar and avoid the standard carpenter, even electrician, plumber.
I think the nice thing about some of those jobs is that they're not being offshored.
That's true.
If my toilet is backed up, I'm not going to India for the answer.
But I think supply demand is going to be a problem.
I think that right now, supply and demand, absolutely. I think the carpentry jobs that you're talking about, the construction jobs, yes, they may have been filled by many people who brought the wages down. Right now, the wages are going up because it's supply and demand, and that's going to happen for a while.
For what it's worth, that's short term.
As we get more and more people and there's more and more demand for housing, it may not be 20 years from now, but it's going to be happening for quite some time.
In the old days when we were growing up, there were prefab houses that were low quality, relatively, and so they weren't very popular. But the current generation even of new housing is being created without carpenters. It's being created automatically by robots and machines. There's going to be less need for those hands-on people, I'm afraid. I think you really have to, if you're a hands-on person, you're going to be a hands-on person who specializes in some kind of a technology. Whether it be, there are these things called biotech clean rooms. And there's a lot of equipment that's used for genetic and biological research and testing. So my best advice for the hands-on person is to avoid the standard old trades that are more subject to automation and more work on the cutting edge. Let's turn, though, from that to a very counterintuitive point that I want to make, and I'm curious what you think. You're not looking happy with me, I'm sorry. I've got to speak the truth. I mean, it really is important. It's
You're the career counselor.
I am. The conventional wisdom is that you should not choose a major until after you're in college, because you need to explore more, try out a lot of courses as your freshman year. I disagree completely. It's not that it's cast in stone, it's cast in jello, but you should choose a tentative major and career while still in high school. Why? Because it can help you choose a college, because not every college, for example, UC Berkeley has an entomology major. If you're interested in insects, it's an under-the-radar career, very environmental, great career. So a little-known way to get into the environmental world. But if you don't figure that out, at least tentatively in advance, you won't have applied necessarily to a school that has a major in entomology. And you can, even if you change your mind later, you can always change. So it's a really good idea to choose in advance. Now, of course, very often your major may have nothing to do with your career, but at least it gives you a shot. I think you start out by choosing a career and a likely major. Now, if your career goal is, and this may shock you, to be a doctor, you don't need to major in biology. You only need to take the 5 or 6 basic science courses. You can major in art or theater. So the point, really, you can major in theater. In fact, if you could make the argument in your medical school applications To say, I learned the art of public speaking and excellent communication and leadership, and I also got B's and A's in the biology, chemistry, and physics, 6 courses. I don't have to major in it.
You still
have to
need
take
to
6
have
courses,
a
but you don't
very,
have to major in it.
I remember when my brother wanted to become a veterinarian, he had to go back and take all the
6
undergraduate
courses.
science classes.
There are 6 courses required for medical school. But you could, a major is normally 13 or 15 courses. You can major in whatever you want. But my point is, doing some of that thinking up front in high school is critical. Comments, questions, criticism, beat me up, whatever you want to do.
I think it's always nice to think about things in high school, but I don't know.
Can I quote you on that?
But yes, you can. You may.
No, I think you shouldn't. I think you should vape all day and not think about a thing.
I think most high school kids are not spending a great deal of time thinking about what they're going to be doing when they're 35. I think they're thinking about more immediate things. And that's why we do try to give them some opportunities to explore as part of school, because I'm not counting on them to be doing that outside of school. I think you're absolutely right. There are a lot of things that are changing very rapidly, and there is great fear that there will be so many jobs that will be taken over by artificial intelligence of one kind or another, that people are even talking about a universal basic income, because people may not be working 40, 50, 60 hours a week. They may be working 15 or 20 because there just won't be that many jobs to go around.
Of course, the question about it, I won't go on, this is too much of a sidetrack, but there are a lot of questions about that. There's going to be millions and millions of people who are not going to be able to find jobs. Who's going to pay for it? And how much is that going to kill jobs? How much is that going to create the so-called welfare mentality? If you can make as much money sitting on your butt as working, is that good? There are issues. There are no pat answers. I know I can't stand when people give these bumper sticker ideas, universal basic income. I understand its reason, but things need to be more nuanced.
But that's what people are talking about, because there's the concern that there won't be jobs.
They're also, by the way, talking about, you go ahead, you want to?
There's also a concern that there won't be college as we know it.
Right, that's a good thing.
Colleges,
they'll change.
But right now, people are still thinking in terms of, my child is going to go away for 4 years, and they're going to live in this nice dorm room, and it's going to cost $100,000.
$300,000 very often for
pretty scary. I don't think that's the average, but
no, at a brand name private school, it's $300,000 sticker price, and in fact, many students don't graduate in 4 years.
Most don't.
I really think not immediately, and this is again a little sidetrack, but hopefully it's interesting. The education of the future is going to be much more just in time. Modules that are interactive. Right now, there's something called Masterclass, in which you can learn film directing from Robert Scorsese. You can learn fashion from Diane von Furstenberg. You can learn children's book writing from Judy Blume for $90 a course.
It's pretty amazing.
Right, and so, the traditional college campus, which is not exactly, I know that the brochures and the websites show the students happily engaged in their chemistry with their test tube and happily waving their mortarboards, but the reality is that the dorm life is very often not exactly, quote, conducive to studying, and a lot of the classes are, while liberal arts has a lot of advantages, young kids are not exactly thrilled with learning the aforementioned Emily Dickinson. So there'll be just-in-time modules taught by master teachers, not just a random assortment. But I wanted to talk just another moment about what we're going to do. You talked about guaranteed basic income. I never try to bring up a problem without a solution. One of the solutions that's being proposed is something called the WPA2. The Work Product Administration. In the 1930s, the Great Depression, the taxpayer paid for the WPA to rebuild the infrastructure in the United States while providing paid work to people. That's another thing. Again, it's still going to cost. How it's going to pay for it, but instead of the welfare mentality issue, where you just give people a guaranteed basic income, you're creating jobs. When we go to a theater and watch Woodminster, go to see plays at Woodminster in Oakland, that was built by the WPA.
And God knows there's a need for infrastructure improvement in this country, because we've put that off for a long time.
I want to turn now, let's go down where, dear listeners, viewers, you're watching the Nemkos Do. We're talking about how to help your child succeed in a career.
Actually, we were talking about how to make sure your child doesn't end up on that sofa.
That's right, exactly.
That's what we were talking
as an
about.
adult. But now let's move things forward to the college level. There are things that you could take 2 kids with the same major, and one could their education could make them so career ready, and the other could be career clueless. Pick a major, any major.
Education.
That's too practical. But let's do theater, because it seems so impractical.
It is, yeah, okay, theater.
Okay.
Thank you for giving me the choice.
Oh, God, sorry, okay. I just wanted to be hard on myself.
Okay.
No, you want to do education? There's no
No.
education major anymore. Now this is a graduate degree in California.
That's true.
Right, pick
Okay.
a major, any major.
Music.
Music, great, okay. Kid loves music, loves listening to music, maybe plays guitar, whatever. Majors in music. They're two identical twins. One simply takes the courses that are required, that are, he does the assignment that's given, he takes if there's required field work, he simply goes to the coolest recording studio and whatever. That kid is going to be, his major or her major is not going to help that person get
With a
employed.
career.
But the same music major, when when choosing courses, says which courses that are elective could possibly career relevant, whether it's in music or not. Because even some music courses could teach leadership, could teach writing skills, thinking about the courses that might
So
be
give
career
me an
relevant.
example of a music course that would teach leadership.
Okay, so a course in conducting. Taking a course in conducting an orchestra, or the business side of music. There are courses in music business that can be taken as an elective. How do you go about, for example, being the manager of a
rock
nightclub
band.
or a nightclub, being an agent, whatever. Taking those courses. When you're given an assignment, and maybe the standard assignment is absolutely career irrelevant, but if you can tell the professor, I'm really interested in potentially becoming an owner of a nightclub, and I would like to learn a little bit more about what kind of musical knowledge I need to know in terms of determining which bands to bring in. Instead of the standard assignment on the history and systems of medieval music, could I possibly do a review of the literature on the evolution of music in nightclubs?
So how do you get your child who likes to strum the guitar while sitting on the couch to start thinking in terms of how do you turn that into a paying career so that they will investigate the knowledge
like
they
everything
need?
else, baby steps. And with a kid who is the vaping kid who's sitting there, playing video games on the couch.
Not vaping in my house.
Right, good. That's a whole other story, but it's far more dangerous than we possibly. The tobacco industry has funded a lot of the effort to try to legalize, but the meta-evaluation by the National Academy of Sciences of 200 solid studies shows far greater negative impacts, not just on memory, motivation, increased likelihood of depression, increased likelihood of psychosis, but also increased cancer and heart attack risk. And you can please look it up. Look up meta-evaluation marijuana 2017, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Anyway, but that kid who's play-centric is not going to be somebody who's going to be motivated to work particularly hard. I need to go with baby steps that are fun. So if the kid wants to, we say we're going to try to help you get a career in music, say, what's your favorite nightclub? Hey, let's go.
Blue Note.
Right, great. So say, how about, because the kid is not going to be self-motivated, he's not going to go. How about we take a little, a road trip to the Blue Note, and during the day, when they're not at the concert, and maybe we can go and look and see the sound system, that you can be cool. Maybe we can go on stage, maybe we can go backstage, maybe we can even talk about who manages the place. That kind of fun little baby step. I know that when a kid is over 21 or whatever, they're supposed to be adults, but not every 22-year-old is the same level of adulthood. And it may be that you as a parent have to, if you want them off your couch, or her, you may need to accompany to get the ball rolling. And then crazier things have happened than if he goes and visits a couple of nightclubs, somebody tends to like the kid or whatever. Maybe because he got the same tattoos as the manager has, or whatever. And gets him a job doing something. Even if it's a busboy in a nightclub, that enables your kid to see up close the workings of the music business.
I don't want to be a busboy. Are you kidding me?
I say, you're right, and I don't want you to be a busboy either. It's what's called a launch pad job. You go there and you make nice to all the people there who are more power, and you may get to do something cooler. And you want to move out of this house, you want to be able to afford your own apartment.
No, I like it here. And I appreciate that you do my laundry. Thanks.
No more. Laundry's done. Okay. Anyway, that's it. But that at least walks us from kindergarten through 8 years old, through the adult lying on the couch. This is our last show for a while. We're going to take at least a hiatus. And I want to just thank you for any of you who did watch. We've tried our best to be really honest in helping you and your children live a better life. And so, and with that, I'll just say I'm Marty Nemko.
I'm Barbara Nemko.
And this
Thanks
is
for
Einstein.
watching.
And this is Einstein Nemko, the equivalent of Alfred Hitchcock, who does a cameo in all of our shows.
He didn't say much, but he added a lot.